Have you ever noticed? The world only claps when you're visible, but it falls silent when you're truly growing. There comes a moment in every person's life when the applause stops, and that's when the real transformation begins. You'll never find yourself in the crowd because clarity doesn't shout, it whispers. When you're finally alone, there's a turning point that comes quietly. The noise around you fades, the spotlight dims, the cheering stops, and all that remains is silence. This isn't emptiness, it's the beginning. Not the journey people talk about, not the kind that's posted online, but the one that defines who you really are. You're left standing with nothing but your thoughts. No filters, no audience, just your discipline, your decisions, and the raw truth. The Stoics understood this deeply. They weren't chasing likes, comfort, or crowds. They weren't searching for applause or validation. They wanted something far greater, sovereignty over the self. And here's the truth, that sovereignty isn't found in popularity or praise. It's not handed to you. It's forged in solitude, in the stillness of reflection, in the quiet burden of responsibility. To walk alone is to peel away all illusions. It forces you to ask, who am I, really? What do I actually need? And then, face the truth head on. It means walking into the unknown, guided only by your integrity and character. It means rising without relying on distractions, without the false comfort of temporary pleasure. This kind of rise isn't flashy. It's not a dramatic moment. It's quiet, steady, invisible to most, but absolutely real. To win alone is to realize the greatest reward is not fame, it's mastery. Mastery over your emotions, over your attention, over yourself. This victory doesn't need a stage. It doesn't need followers. It reveals itself in how you live, in the peace that flows from living by principle instead of impulse. But don't be mistaken, this is not a path for everyone. It demands more than ambition. It demands transformation. It calls you to stay grounded while others fall apart, to keep moving even when no one's clapping, to endure even when there's no one beside you. But this is the only path that leads to real freedom. Not the kind that depends on money or approval, but the kind that lives within your soul. The Stoics knew, if you want to become unbreakable, you must first walk alone. Chapter 1. Walk alone. The first step to inner clarity. Walking alone isn't a punishment. It's an invitation, a sacred call to return to yourself. When you pull away from the world's noise, from opinions, obligations, expectations, you begin to hear something far more important. Not the voice shaped by society, not the one that pleases others, but the one hidden deep inside, the voice of conscience, of virtue, of reason. At first, it's just a whisper. It's been drowned out for too long. But as the noise fades, it grows louder. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "Nowhere can man find a quieter or more untroubled retreat than in his own soul." That's not solitude for escape. That's solitude for alignment. Many people confuse isolation with bitterness, but the Stoics seized detachment as a path to truth. They knew walking alone doesn't mean being abandoned. It means being free. To walk alone is an art. It's the process of stripping away distractions so you can finally meet yourself, not the version others expect, but the one that has been quietly waiting all along. Too often, we're tethered to relationships, routines, and environments that dilute our potential. We rely on others to define who we are. We chase validation instead of alignment. We fear letting go, mistaking loneliness for failure and solitude for exile. But to the Stoic, alone doesn't mean empty. It means aligned. It means free. When you walk alone, you stop outsourcing your direction to others. You stop letting your life be dictated by the moods and opinions of the world. You stop living to fit into someone else's mold. Instead, you begin to reclaim what's yours, your intent, your voice, your integrity. You move, not because others are moving, but because your principles demand it. And this isn't just poetic, it's real, tangible, demanding, walking. Alone means choosing your values, even when they isolate you from comfort. It means standing for truth when it's unpopular, inconvenient, or costly. It means facing your fears, not with cheerleaders beside you, but with nothing but the raw sound of your own breath. It means looking in the mirror, not to admire, but to examine. And in those quiet, lonely decisions, in that silent resistance, you begin to form a strength that can't be borrowed, can't be bought. You stop depending on temporary companions. You start becoming something solid, something formidable, something whole. It's a lonely road at first, but not an empty one. Because in solitude, you meet teachers you've forgotten, your intuition, your reason, your resilience. These are not passing moods, but ancient voices within you, voices that had been drowned by comparison, by noise, by your addiction to approval. And when you walk alone, they return, not with fanfare, but with clarity. You begin to realize how little you actually need to feel whole, and how much you've given away chasing things that never truly fed your soul. You learn to walk through discomfort without needing to be rescued from it. You stop avoiding the hard conversations with yourself. You stare into your doubts and say, "Let's talk." That's when healing begins. You learn to find clarity without needing others to agree. You understand that peace does not require consensus. You become someone who can sit still in a storm because you've built shelter within. And in real life, what does this look like? It looks like setting boundaries even when they make you feel misunderstood, saying no to things that once gave you status but stole your peace, choosing growth over fitting in again and again. It looks like staying home to study while everyone else escapes, waking early to reflect before the world fills your mind with noise, writing when no one's reading, practicing when no one's watching, praying when no one hears, and still believing it matters. It also means doing the deeper work. You stop seeking pity and start seeking progress. You begin asking, what lesson is this pain trying to teach me? You begin to see solitude, not as a void, but as a forge, a place where your rough edges are shaped by discipline, where your fears are melted by repetition. You stop trying to be understood, and instead, you begin to understand yourself. Solitude is not about isolation, it's about foundation. It is the deep work beneath the surface that no one sees. It's where your values become decisions, and decisions become your path. Until you can walk with yourself, you're not ready to walk with anyone else. Until you are enough for your own journey, you will always feel incomplete in the presence of others. True strength isn't needing a crowd to move forward. It's becoming someone who walks with purpose, even when the road is silent and the journey is long. There is no crowd gathered to witness your quiet victories. No one's filming when you choose the harder path. No one claps when you fail in silence and refuse to give up. And that is exactly where the Stoic plants their roots. Not in the light of recognition, but in the shadows of discomfort. Not in the noise of approval, but in the stillness the world ignores. It is in these invisible hours, those overlooked, forgotten, and unglamorous, that real strength is born. Not on a stage, but in solitude. Not in applause, but in the presence of your own unwavering resolve. There is something sacred about rising without praise. It reveals your motives are clean. Your reasons come from within. You're not moving forward to be liked. Not for likes, status, or applause. You're doing it because something deep inside you refuses to settle. Because a part of you knows. Comfort is a prison. It just happens to be draped in silk. And the only way out is through disciplined, invisible effort. The kind of effort that even your future self will one day look back and whisper, "Thank you for not giving up when no one was watching." When Epictetus said, "If you want to improve, be content to be thought foolish and stupid," he wasn't promoting ignorance. He was teaching freedom from appearances, from ego, from the need to perform. The Stoic path is often misunderstood because it's quiet. It doesn't perform. It doesn't need applause to feel confident. It doesn't require confirmation to act with conviction. The Stoic rises when mocked. The Stoic persists when ignored. Because rising alone isn't about being seen rising. It's about becoming someone who rises. No matter what, you'll wake before the world, and the world won't care. You'll sacrifice what most people chase: ease, distraction, comfort. And yes, you'll be misunderstood. You'll be labeled too intense, too serious, too different. You'll study, train, reflect, and build, all in silence. You'll endure seasons of isolation, not because you're broken, but because you're under construction. You'll walk away from drama, decline shallow invitations, let go of numbing habits, sever ties with who you used to be. No celebration, no praise, no announcement. Just quiet, steady transformation, and piece by piece, you become a fortress of focus. Because true consistency, the kind that holds when everything else fails, begins where applause ends. The Stoic doesn't rise because of what others will say. They rise in spite of it. They choose discipline when no one is watching. They chase excellence without an audience. The gym with no mirrors becomes their monastery. The journal no one reads becomes their scripture. The routine no one understands becomes their source of self-respect. This is the forge, not of results, but of resolve. You begin to welcome the repetition. You embrace the monotony, not as a burden, but as a sacred ritual of becoming you. Realize greatness is not built in flashes of intensity, but in the grind of consistency. How you carry yourself in obscurity determines how you'll stand when the spotlight comes. Every unnoticed hour becomes your anchor. Every sacrifice made in silence becomes your foundation. Each day you show up when no one sees, when no one claps. You are building something no one can take from you. Inner stability. The Stoic doesn't wait for the right moment. They don't wait for motivation, or ease, or approval. To rise alone is to stop waiting. No more waiting for clarity. No more waiting to feel ready. You move not because you're certain of success, but because you're certain of your principle, and that is what separates you from the rest. While most wait for fair weather before beginning the journey, the Stoic walks in the rain, and when setbacks come, and they will, you don't panic. You don't spiral. You don't curse the storm. Why? Because you've trained for this moment, in silence. You rehearsed adversity through your discipline. You bled in private, so you could stand in public. The world sees your results and calls it strength, but you know it wasn't born in victory. It was born in unseen moments of doubt, met with relentless action. This type of rising is lonely, yes, but it is never aimless. There are no parades, no trophies, no applause, but there is direction, and direction is everything. You're not rising to impress. You're rising to align with your values, to align with virtue, to align with the deeper call of who you were always meant to become. The Stoic doesn't ask, will people admire this? They ask, is this just? Is this worthy? Is this true? And when you live by that principle, even the smallest routines begin to feel meaningful. You stop seeing early alarms as burdens. They become declarations of purpose. You no longer crave praise for your discipline, your eating habits, your studies, because the act itself becomes the reward. You realize the true reward isn't being admired for your commitment. It's being transformed by it. You don't need recognition. What you need is momentum. And once you taste the freedom of rising without needing anyone to notice, you'll never want to go back. There's power in that kind of solitude, power in that kind of independence. You stop depending on others to motivate you. You stop outsourcing your ambition. Your mission becomes private, quiet, unstoppable. This isn't about perfection. It's not about performance. It's the slow, steady burn of purpose, a fire that no storm can extinguish. Because it wasn't lit by the world. It was lit by you, and it will carry you through every season of solitude, every night of doubt, every hill of resistance. Because once you rise for yourself, you no longer need permission to rise again. Brick by brick, day by day, you build a self that does not collapse when life removes its comforts. You become your own support system, your own reminder, your own reason. You stop being fueled by what is fleeting, likes, followers, applause, and start being sustained by what is eternal, virtue, purpose, alignment. The Stoic knows applause is fleeting like a breeze, but discipline is a mountain that does not move. When you rise alone, you're not chasing the wind. You're planting yourself like a tree, one whose roots run deeper than the storm is strong. You rise through rejection, through being underestimated, through long, quiet hours with no feedback, and still you smile at the silence because you understand what most people don't. That silence is where the soul speaks. Silence is where the old self dies, and the strong self is born. The Stoic doesn't run from silence. They seek it. They know it is in solitude that falsehoods are stripped away, leaving only what's real. There is a strange kind of peace that finds you when you no longer need to be seen, when you no longer need to be invited, praised, or celebrated. To give your best, when you can sit alone in a room and still feel whole, when joy doesn't come from being noticed, but from doing the work you were born to do. That is the essence of rising alone. You're no longer dependent on visibility to feel valuable. You become dangerous, not because you're aggressive, but because you are self-sufficient, because you no longer beg for energy, you generate it. You no longer rely on the world to lift you. You lift yourself. You become dangerous too. Your former excuses, your former addictions, the weaker version of you that once needed validation just to function, the man or woman who can rise alone becomes unstoppable. Not because they're louder, but because they're rooted. And someday people will ask you, how did you stay so consistent? How did you stay so calm? How did you accomplish so much without needing the spotlight? And you won't have some dramatic story, no headline moment, no viral explanation. You'll simply say, I stayed in the fight. No one knew the battles you were fighting. And that, is the advantage of the Stoic path. Silent suffering becomes silent. Strength, quiet action becomes quiet power. Let your life speak for you. Let your energy say what your words don't. Let your habits speak louder than your hashtags. Let your presence reflect the weight of the inner work you've done. Let them underestimate you and use it as fuel. Let them forget you and become unforgettable. Because when you rise alone, you don't just rise, you evolve. And when the day comes, when the spotlight finally finds you, you won't need it. You'll be the same person in silence as you are in celebration. That's the final transformation. You rise, not to be seen, but to be whole. Let them talk, let them rest, let them wait. You rise. Chapter 3. Win alone, victory without validation. To win alone is to understand that the highest prize is peace of mind, not applause. The Stoics never asked, what will they think? They asked, is this right? Because true victory isn't about triumphing over others. It's about triumphing over yourself, over weakness, over impulse, over fear. Seneca once said, "It is not the man who has too little, but the man who craves more that is poor." To win alone is to have enough within yourself. When you win alone, there's no need to shout, no need to post it, no need to prove it. You don't need likes, praise, or approval because you've already proven it to the only one that matters. You stayed disciplined when no one was watching. You chose virtue over ease, substance over style. You walked through doubt, delay, disappointment, and you didn't break. You bent, you adapted. You endured, and that quiet resilience became your crown. The Stoics understood, victory is not measured by noise, it's measured by peace. The one who can look in the mirror and say, I kept going, even when I could have quit, has won. Far more than the one who simply finishes first. This kind of winning can't be bought. It can't be gifted. It isn't handed down through praise or position. It's earned quietly, step by step, decision by decision, through self-discipline, through inner alignment, through relentless repeated return to what is right. In the Stoic worldview, the wise are victorious, not when others fall, but when they rise above themselves. To win alone is to win without comparison, to need only to be better than the person you used to be. It's to overcome your impulses, your fears, your excuses. It's to stare temptation in the face and walk the other way. It's to sit with failure without flinching, and to meet success without swelling with pride in real life. Winning alone might look like staying sober while others are partying recklessly, not to be different, but to be free. Freedom is not loud. It's not in the noise of rebellion. It's in the quiet of self-control. It might mean walking away from toxic praise, the kind that feeds your ego, but rots your soul. It might mean choosing the hard path, the one paved with conscience, not cheers. It might mean reaching your goal in silence and moving to the next without celebration, because your mission doesn't need applause, it needs progress. When your reward is internal, no external thing can distract you. Not flattery, not criticism, not even success. Winning alone also means your victory isn't built on anyone else's downfall. You don't climb by stepping on people. You rise by stepping through your fear. You reject shortcuts because you understand unearned victories are hollow. You know speed without depth is a trap. You don't need to explain yourself. Your life already does that. Your actions speak louder than any defense. You don't need to impress, because alignment with your values feels better than applause. You know that real confidence is quiet, and real fulfillment invisible. You're not winning to be seen, you're winning to be complete. Let the world wonder, how did you do it? Why are you so silent? Why are you so calm, so focused? Let them misinterpret your stillness as distance, your discipline as coldness. The higher you climb, the quieter it gets. Not because you've pulled away, but because you've sharpened your focus to the point that distractions no longer find a way in. People might think you've grown distant, but in truth, you've ascended. This isn't arrogance, it's quiet devotion. The kind the outside world doesn't recognize, because they're too busy performing. The farther you go, the more you begin to choose presence over praise, process over performance. You owe no one a show. You owe only yourself the truth. You're not here to entertain. You're here to evolve. You've come to understand. The mirror is your audience. Your soul is your scoreboard. You no longer measure your growth through praise, but through alignment, by how closely your life reflects what you say you value. And if, at the end of the day, you can sleep peacefully knowing you lived it, you walked it, you stayed with it, then you've won. You've conquered the hardest opponent of all, your own indifference, your own comfort, your own doubt, not because the world said so, but because your soul knows it's true. That is the kind of victory that lasts, the prize that no one can take from you, the kind of triumph that echoes, even in silence. Chapter 4. The Stoic's solitude, not escape, but elevation. To the Stoic, solitude was never about running away. It was about rising above. It was stepping back so you could step forward with greater clarity, with greater force. Seneca withdrew to write, not because he hated the world, but because he wanted to sharpen his mind before returning to it. Marcus Aurelius wrote Meditations not to publish it, but to purify himself. To the untrained mind, solitude feels like a trap. It exposes the thoughts we've buried beneath busyness and noise. But to the trained mind, solitude is sacred ground, the arena where clarity is won, where noise is silenced, where values are sharpened. The Stoic understood this. If your peace depends on people or circumstances, then it's not peace, it's dependency. True peace is internal. It's the stillness that remains untouched by outer chaos. It's not dictated by moods, events, or the way others treat you. It is born from clarity, from grounded values, from the discipline of knowing who you are without needing confirmation from anyone else. Because when you rely on others to calm your storms, you're always living at the mercy of their weather. That's why solitude isn't weakness. It's power under control. It's not about isolation or avoidance, but about intentional separation from everything that pulls you away from your deepest self. It's the choice to turn inward while others keep looking outward, to seek wisdom. Not from popularity, but from principle. It's the ability to remain still while the world panics, to anchor yourself in silence while everyone else is swept away by news, novelty, and noise. Solitude gives you space to breathe, to think, to reconnect with what's real. It's the ability to stay centered when others are scattered, to remain whole when distractions try to pull your focus into pieces. It's the discipline to stand tall when no one claps, to choose the hard path even when no rewards are guaranteed, to speak the truth in rooms that prefer echoes over honesty. The Stoic solitude is filled with purpose. It's a space for reflection, for recalibration, for self-correction. Every moment alone becomes a sharpening stone. Every step away from the crowd becomes a step deeper into yourself, into your integrity, into your clarity. In solitude, you're not fleeing the world, you're facing it more honestly. You don't need to live in a cave to embrace solitude. Solitude isn't exile, it's elevation. It's not about hiding from the world. It's about rising above the noise. It's about reclaiming your mind before the world programs it with urgency, comparison, and chaos. Maybe it's just 10 quiet minutes in the morning where you breathe deeply and reset your intention, not to react, but to create. Maybe it's a walk without your phone, a moment to reconnect with your thoughts, to remember who you are when no one's watching. Maybe it's processing your emotions internally instead of broadcasting them impulsively. It's learning to respond, not react, to pause before you post, to feel without performing. It might look like journaling before bed, reading the works of timeless minds, or sitting still just long enough to hear the whispers beneath your worries, the kind of wisdom that only emerges when the noise dies down. It might be turning down an invitation because you promised yourself that this evening was dedicated to your growth. It might be resisting the urge to explain yourself when misunderstood, trusting that truth does not tremble in silence, in solitude. You discover that your greatest ally isn't the one who cheers you on, but the voice inside you that won't let you quit. That voice is quiet, persistent, fierce. It doesn't flatter you, it challenges you. It doesn't soothe you, it strengthens you. That inner voice, forged in stillness and tested through struggle, becomes your compass in a chaotic world, full of borrowed values and conflicting messages. It doesn't scream for attention, but it commands respect. It reminds you who you are, and more importantly, who you're meant to become. And the more you return to it, the more you ask it the hard questions. Am I living in alignment? Do I seek validation or truth? With every honest answer, that voice grows deeper. It won't lead you toward comfort. It will lead you toward coherence, toward a life where what you believe, what you say, and what you do are all aligned with truth, not trend it pulls you out of distraction and into presence, out of image and into essence. And once you've truly heard it, once you've followed it through darkness, once it's carried you when nothing else could, the opinions of others grow faint. Their applause doesn't inflate you because your worth was never for sale. Their criticism doesn't undo you because you've already done the work in solitude. You are no longer steered by the crowd. You are led by your core, a core built not on applause, but on principle, not on noise, but on knowledge, not on agreement, but on self-mastery. And within that sacred clarity, you walk a path few people see, but one you will never regret. Your routine is not just what you do, it becomes your declaration to the world. Marcus Aurelius, Emperor of Rome, surrounded by wealth, duty, and endless noise, reminded himself daily, don't waste time in doubt or drift. He knew the responsibility to live well belongs to no one else but yourself. And so, every morning and night, he turned inward to hold himself accountable. That ... is discipline. It's rising without being asked, doing what's right when no one is watching, returning to the work without recognition, pushing forward even when there's no guarantee of reward. Discipline is not a performance for the world. It's a pact with yourself, a silent agreement between who you are and who you are becoming. The disciplined mind walks its own path and stays on it, not because it's easy, but because it's right. That kind of integrity doesn't bloom in the spotlight. It grows in the quiet soil of repetition and resolve. It's built on thousands of tiny decisions, made when no one is watching. This is a lonely kind of strength. There's no crowd in the kitchen when you choose a healthy meal over instant gratification. No audience in your study when you read a book instead of scrolling endlessly. No applause when you say no to distractions, temptations, and shortcuts. But this is where your character is sharpened, in the unseen, uncelebrated choices, because that silent crossroads, the one between progress and comfort, is never glamorous. It's quiet, it's ordinary, but it's life-defining. When the world is silent, you finally hear the voice of who you're becoming. And that voice, it's not always gentle, but it is always true. It will challenge you, it will call you out, it will hold you to the standard you chose, even when it hurts. And over time, that voice becomes your guide. Not a tyrant, but a torch. Not a critic, but a compass. So build routines that don't depend on emotion. Emotions are guests, habits are anchors. Build discipline into your bones. Make excellence less about intense effort and more about consistent action. Create environments that promote virtue over vice, clarity over chaos. Reduce temptation by shaping your surroundings. Let your systems support your standards. Let your habits carry you when your feelings try to pull you off track. Design a life where you no longer need to negotiate with yourself every day. Remove friction from your good decisions and add friction to the bad ones. Make excellence your default. Make virtue automatic. And when no one is watching you grind, let that be the reward. Let obscurity refine you. Let the struggle purify you. Let your silence sharpen you. Because for the Stoic, solitude without discipline is isolation, but solitude with discipline that is transformation, that's where invisible effort becomes visible strength. That's the fire where your future self is forged, not through applause, but through accountability. Not through comfort, but through consistency. Letting go doesn't make you weaker, it makes you sharper. It doesn't mean you stop caring. It means you stop clinging. You can love someone deeply without losing yourself. You can chase a vision without becoming consumed by it. You can endure loss and remain whole because your peace is no longer tied to outcomes, but anchored in the integrity of your actions. This is Stoic detachment, not a rejection of feeling, but a refusal to be ruled by it. You don't deny your emotions. You transcend them. You don't shut down your heart. You educate it with reason. In everyday life, detachment might look like this: letting go of the need to be praised for your efforts doing the right thing without broadcasting it, walking away from an argument where being right costs your peace, to chase things that don't align with your purpose, even if they look good on paper. It's resisting the urge to prove, to boast, to win meaningless battles. It's redefining success, not by what you gain, but by how little you need. You exchange approval for alignment, applause for authenticity, recognition for inner validation, the kind that requires no witnesses. And the less you need, the freer you become. And in that freedom, mastery emerges, because when your inner world is solid, you no longer need to control the outer one. Your identity is no longer borrowed from the reactions of others. It is owned fully by the strength of your values. You enter every situation, not to take, but to offer. You act from abundance, not from lack. You speak from truth, not from fear, and that posture, rooted, disciplined, and detached, makes you untouchable. Because when the world can't tempt you with praise, and can't crush you with rejection, you are finally free to live, Chapter 8. The Silent Victory Unseen. Unbroken, the world celebrates noise, but the Stoic honors silence. Real victory doesn't need fireworks. It doesn't need to be announced. It arrives quietly, often unnoticed, tucked inside the folds of ordinary days. The Stoic sees beyond the illusion of performance. They understand that the greatest triumphs are not shouted. They are lived. It's when you take the higher road with no one watching, when you forgive without being asked, when you continue even when no one is praising you. Seneca wrote, "Sometimes even to live is an act of courage." He wasn't talking about surviving. He meant living well, nobly, virtuously, when the world around you tempts you to settle for less. The silent victories are the ones no one will ever know. Choosing not to lie, not to indulge, not to retaliate. They won't earn applause, but they mark your transformation. These moments won't show up on your resume, but they will fortify your soul. They are the quiet bricks that build an unshakable character. They are scars, not visible, but honored by your inner self. These battles happen in the privacy of thought, in the pause between reaction and reflection, in the moment where doing the right thing is hard. And unseen, the path to becoming unbreakable isn't paved with trophies. It's built with restraint. It's made of sacred strength, the strength to hold back when it would be so easy to explode, when emotion rises. But you answer with reason. You win something far greater than the moment. You win mastery over yourself when you want to quit, but you still show up. You prove endurance isn't luck, it's loyalty to your mission. When your old self resurfaces and you meet it with discipline, you prove that growth isn't born from inspiration, but from resistance. These are the true moments of mastery, the real battles that forge a person, not in public view, but in the silence they survive. You win, you rise quietly, you ascend in silence, and yet who you become speaks louder than words. It changes how you move, how you speak, how you lead, and how you love. In everyday life, silent victories might look like this. Walking away from an argument you could have easily won, not from weakness, but from wisdom. Declining praise that feeds your ego and choosing humility instead. Letting go of the need to prove yourself and proving your principles through action. It's about smiling through difficulty, staying calm in chaos, and staying consistent when no one is keeping score. These choices are rarely noticed, but they always build strength. Each decision becomes a notch in your internal armor. You begin crafting an inner legacy, one that only you and your conscience will ever see. But that is more than enough, because your soul remembers. Let the world chase heroes in headlines. Let them celebrate glittering moments and viral noise. The Stoic trains for the invisible. They invest in the hidden realms of character, restraint, purpose, and strength. They find power in privacy. They stand firm in silence. They don't broadcast their efforts or campaign for admiration, because virtue is its own reward. They know what the world can't see is what often defines who you truly are. It's not the spotlight that forges you, it's the shadows you conquered before ever stepping into the light. It's the hours spent in silence, the sacrifices made in secret, the emotions wrestled in solitude. That is where real greatness is forged. Don't tell everyone what you're doing or planning, not because you're hiding it, but because you're protecting it. There is a sacredness in silence. It acts like invisible armor, shielding your momentum from interference. Energy leaks where attention flows, And not everyone watching you wants you to win. Some want to compete, some want to copy, some want to destroy. Others pretend to support while secretly hoping you'll fail. When your vision is exposed too early, it becomes vulnerable to misunderstanding, to ridicule, to sabotage. Not all attacks are loud. Some arrive in the form of doubt, planted by people who claim to care. Don't show off your success in a quick story or viral soundbite. Because the truth is, no one cares as much as you think. Some will even resent you for it. They'll smile to your face while silently rooting against you. They'll clap for you publicly, but hope for your fall privately. Success invites celebration, but also envy. It's not personal, it's human nature. And that's why privacy is powerful. Keep your garden behind the wall until the roots are deep and the fruit can't be shaken. Protect your peace, protect your strength, protect your success. And the best way to do that is to keep things private. Let your progress be your prayer. Guard your momentum like a sacred fire, because the more eyes on it, the more they will try to blow it out. Privacy is power. What's hidden is harder to hit. What's quiet is harder to corrupt. What's sacred is harder to scatter. Let your results speak louder than any announcement. Let your excellence remain understated, undeniable. Let your growth and success speak for themselves. Not in noise, but in presence. Not in stories, but in standards. Let your integrity echo louder than your marketing. That is how the Stoic moves. With quiet fire, with invisible strength, and with unshattered light may be soft, but their impact is profound. Their voice may be calm, but their example shouts the truth. And in a world obsessed with image and noise, there is nothing more rebellious or more powerful than progress kept private. Chapter 9. Build the inner citadel. To walk alone is to build a fortress within. A place untouched by storms, criticism, or praise. Marcus Aurelius called this fortress the inner citadel, and to the Stoic, it is the most sacred architecture one can ever build, because the external world, it is uncertain. People leave, opportunities fade, fortunes rise and fall. But your inner citadel filled well remains. It becomes your sanctuary of peace. It's where your values live, guarded. It's where your identity no longer depends on likes, wins, or approval. But here's the truth. The inner citadel isn't built in a single day. It's laid brick by brick, each time you choose discipline over distraction, virtue over convenience, calm over chaos. You place stones through your morning routines, your evening reflections, and the graceful endurance of difficult moments. You become the architect of your own strength. When the world grows loud, you retreat inward. When others panic, you return to your foundation. Your inner citadel becomes your shield. It allows you to face betrayal without bitterness, loss without despair, success without arrogance. It makes you self-contained, self-directed, and self-reliant, not because you've rejected the world, but because you refuse to be ruled by it. And no, building this citadel doesn't mean isolation. It means insulation, protecting what is essential from what is external. In daily life, this might look like a few minutes of Stoic reading, journaling with full honesty, a silent walk to sort your emotions before you speak them, breath work, meditation, or simply treating yourself with self-respect. In a world obsessed with showing off, the inner citadel is invisible, but it's real. It's your safe haven in the storm. It's your compass when everything else burns. And when the world around you falls apart, you won't, Because what's strong inside you wasn't built by the world, and it can't be broken by it either. Chapter 10. Walk alone, but never against yourself, and this is the final lesson. Maybe the most important one. Walking alone must never mean turning against yourself. Solitude is not punishment. It's a proving ground. Even the most disciplined Stoic must learn. Discipline is not self-denial. Strength is not self-hate. There is no honor in becoming your own enemy. There is only harm. To walk alone powerfully, you must walk with yourself, not against. The Stoics never asked for perfection. They asked for progress. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily that he would get angry, that he would fall short, that he would fail. But he also reminded himself to return to the path with humility, with patience, and with courage. Walking alone is not about never falling. It's about never abandoning yourself when you do. It's about knowing your worth so deeply that you stop bargaining with your values. It's about correcting yourself, firmly but kindly, holding the line without crushing your spirit. The Stoic does not shame themselves into growth. They guide themselves with clarity and compassion. They hold themselves to high standards, not out of fear, but out of love for the strength they are becoming in your own life. This means showing yourself the same respect you'd offer a friend. You wouldn't mock a friend for failing, so don't tear yourself down either, resting when needed, not out of laziness, but out of strategy. Because a rested mind makes sharper decisions, and a steady soul endures longer storms. It means speaking to yourself with truth, not with cruelty. Being honest, not harsh. Firm, not fatal. You don't rise by breaking yourself down. You rise by believing in yourself, even when you've hit your lowest moment, because your inner dialogue becomes your outer action. If your self-talk is filled with poison, your spirit will wilt. But if it's filled with direction, even in discipline, your character will grow strong. So walk alone, but walk with honor. Rise alone, but rise with purpose. Win alone, but win with peace. Let your solitude be a temple of preparation, not a prison of pressure. Let your silence be filled with intention. You don't need to be seen. You don't need to be followed. You don't even need to be understood. You only need to be aligned with truth, with virtue, with the best inside you. And when the world gets loud, when the path gets dark, when your energy runs thin, come back to this. The one who walks alone does not walk empty. They walk full of discipline, of clarity, of strength, and they are never truly alone, because they walk in harmony with the inner voice that whispers, keep going. That ... is the Stoic way. Quiet, resolute, and more than enough.